Yes, you read that correctly. After months of coming back to reality, the Halifax real estate market has rebounded in October. So from September to October, we're up about 2.3%, but from August to October, we're up 9.1%. So this is great news for Haligonian homeowners who have been carefully watching the real estate market. So getting right into it, all the stats from year to date up to November 1st. So far this year, we've sold just over 4,900 homes in HRM, which is down 25.4% from this time last year. And these sales have sold for an average of about $542,700, which is up 16.8% year over year. And the current listing inventory sits around 1.98 months, which is over double what it was this time last year in 2021. Now, before I dive a little bit deeper into the stats here, if you like this content and you want to see more, please click the like and subscribe to my channel. I post videos every week on YouTube about the Halifax real estate market and buyer and seller tips. Also, if you want to book a call with me anytime to chat about real estate or a listing consultation or a buyer consultation, you can do so in the calendar link below in the description at a time when it's convenient for you. So these numbers are rounded to the nearest thousand just for ease of following. But if I look back to August this year, the average sale price was about $467,000. Now jumping ahead to September, we had about $497,000 in the month of September. And now in October, we've had about $509,000. So it does seem that the market is starting to level off a little bit here after slowly falling since the peak in March and April. So from the peak in April, we are still down from that point. So we're down about 14.7% from the peak in April. However, if I look at October 2022 versus October 2021, we're actually up year over year about 6.3% in that month. So it is very interesting to follow. And honestly, it's not a complete train wreck here like the media is portraying. Now, would it be better if we weren't down at all? Of course, most homeowners would say yes, but the reality is we are down from the peak and we're just trying to keep up with this and see where it's going. But I think the full realization of what's happening in our Halifax real estate market, to be very truthful, I don't think will be realized until we get into the spring and summer market next year in 2023. Something I don't generally talk about in these updates is showings per listing on average, but I did talk about it in my last update because I wanted to get a little bit more into the details. So in October, we saw about 6.3 showings per listing, and in September, it was down to about 5.7. So we have seen more activity in October, and to be honest, I'm not really surprised by that because in September, we did have Hurricane Fiona, and we had some other stuff going on here, and it's just not surprising that it was a little bit slower in September when you consider the hurricane and everything that happened in the aftermath of that. So we basically lost about a week in the end of the month there. And another interesting stat is over the last 3 months, it's actually been more showings per listing before they saw an accepted offer. So I think this is a byproduct of, more to choose from on the market. We have a lot more inventory now. And even though the inventory is still low, we have a lot more now than we had in months past. And because of that, the buyers have more choice and they have the ability to be more picky as there's not as many buyers in the market at certain price points. So I think they're just looking at more homes before they make a decision. And they're a lot less likely to settle for something they don't like because they're seeing homes sit on the market a little bit longer and they're expecting to be able to find what they want at this point in time. Moving on to sale to list price ratio. So we're still getting a great sale to list price ratio, right around 99%. This was at 99.3 in September. So we're right around the same as we were in September. Now, in March, it peaked at about 125%, but I do think this is a little bit skewed because the reality is in January, February, and March, when I was listing a home that I thought was worth $550,000, I'd be listing it for $450 or $475 because that was the way the market was then, and that was the best strategy to get the best result for our seller clients. Now, if I think in this market currently, if a house is worth around $550,000, I'm listing it for about $550,000 or maybe even slightly higher with the thought that it's going to sit on the market a little bit and we're going to see some showings and buyers are going to try to negotiate a little bit on the sale price. Now, we are still in a seller's market. Right now, we have right around 800 listings in HRM, give or take, depending on the day. And this equates to just under 2 months of listing inventory. So again, it is still a seller's market. Things have slowed down drastically, but in my opinion, the sellers are still kind of in charge. They're still in control of what we're seeing in the real estate market. And in terms of the number of new listings we're seeing hit the market, this has been trending downward since May. But since May, the listing inventory has been steadily increasing. So it's interesting because we have less listings hitting the market, but there's less listings selling, so the inventory is going up, meaning right now the buyers have more to choose from now than they did back in the summer and the spring. And it's interesting because right now it's almost like we have a standoff between the buyer and the seller because The sellers still want the prices we were seeing in the spring, but they're just not quite there anymore. And the buyers, because they're seeing more inventory and seeing listings sit longer, they want to negotiate a little bit more. So it's almost like there's this standoff between the buyers and the sellers, and the buyers are looking for today's pricing, looking for a deal, and the seller's sitting there thinking, well, I'll move if I get my price. But the price they want might be what we were seeing in the spring, and they just might not see that in the current market. So it is kind of an interesting dynamic out there when you're working with listings and you're working with buyers. And it's really interesting to see this going forward. Now, sales will slow down going into the fall, but this is typical of what we would normally see in HRM in a regular market. And the last thing I want to mention is that even though some listings are sitting on the market for 30 or 60 or even 90 days, sometimes those are still getting multiple offers. So here's a real life story about a listing I had in the West End. We listed for $1 million and it was on the market for 30 days. Now, we had some pretty good activity, but we didn't see any offers. So the seller decided to reduce the price from $1 million to $950. Now, it sat on the market for another 30 days. We were getting more activity, and we were getting, good feedback. It just wasn't the right fit for the buyers. And then all of a sudden, 30 days after dropping to $950,000, we had 2 interested buyers, and they both wrote offers. We had competing bids, and then it ended up selling over the asking price by $40,000, so it sold for $990,000. So at this point, this was $40,000 over the asking price, but it was only $10,000 under our initial asking price. So my point is this: your house doesn't have to sell in a day to get the result you want, but you have to be patient and you need to find the right buyer looking for the property that you have on the market. Now, I know I just threw a ton of information at you, so I'm going to sum this up kind of in a basic sense in terms of what all those numbers mean and everything I just told you. So if you're a seller, your house is not going to sell in a day, more than likely, unless you're listing it very aggressively. It might sit on the market for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. But it doesn't mean you won't get what you want for the house if you're patient and if you wait for the right buyer to come along. Now, if you're a buyer, there's a lot more to look at and rates are going up. So make sure you pay attention to your rate hold dates and when they're up for renewal so that you know when you can meet conditions or when you can close. And on top of that, be patient. There's probably going to be some pretty nice looking deals coming into the winter or coming into the new year. But honestly, only time will tell. And I will keep you updated going into next year, and I'll do a video for my predictions as well going into the following year as we get closer to that time. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And if you like this video and you get any value out of this video, please hit the like and subscribe to my channel. We'd love to see you watching more and more of my content as I post videos every week on YouTube. Again, thanks for watching. Thank you so much. Have a great day.